Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter, and I'm excited to be here with you today. I hope you're excited to be here with me. Lots of good things happening that I wanted to share with you. I told you early on in the podcast that I was going to talk about the successes and failures, especially as I start to embark upon a new startup for me, which will be my fifth startup in my life, which is exciting. Anybody who has done startups knows it's not easy. And this time around, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm doing something that's a little different than I've done before. I'm working in the world of software and building software, and that requires me to understand product, requires me to understand marketing, sales, operations, process, like you name it, I'm involved with it. And I've never managed a software product, or I've been involved in software products, but I've never actually taken one from the ground up from an idea. And I'm very excited and passionate about this business. But what it's made me realize is that the concept of projecting grandeur, when you're building literally vaporware, you're building nothing, right? You're building software. It's not anything but ones and zeros and little lines of code. But as you're building out software, you really have to tell the world not just what you're going to do, but what your thing does. And my software six-pack is pretty complex. There's a lot of nuances to it, a lot of things that it accomplishes. And sometimes when I try to explain it to people, I'm not very good at it. And so I've had to really harness that skill. But I was on a call recently, and I was talking to an existing customer of Six-Pack, and they were telling me about one of their friends that owns a business that was looking for a new platform. And I said, I'd love to be put in touch with them, and they ultimately did put me in touch with them. And I started fumbling my way through a very bad pitch about the business. And as I was fumbling my way through it, somehow the person on the other end actually understood what I was saying, and they were interested. But what was really interesting that came out of this is they told me about this whole pocket of businesses that need a software like we're building, but don't really have a good option. And so they further put me in touch with an association that focuses on this niche that is not one that I was focused on, but our software solved. And next thing you knew, I had now a referral relationship with the association. And I think the reason that I'm telling you this today is I want to talk about a concept that I call turning over rocks, or looking for the opportunity. And think back to when you were a kid, and if you were like me, you saw a rock on the ground and you wanted to turn it over to see what was crawling around or living around underneath it. And sometimes you were surprised about what was underneath there, and sometimes you saw nothing. But I think the point to it is that opportunities, especially in a small, scrappy startup type business, you really have to be able to turn over rocks and find opportunities. You have to ask a lot of questions. You have to make sure that you think of things as opportunities, even if you're not sure if they are, and go into things assuming that there is an opportunity to be found. And you won't get an opportunity if you don't turn over rocks. And one of the mindsets that I've often taught inside my companies is that everyone sells. And what everyone sells means is that you're always looking for the opportunity. You're always looking for, the chance to add a new customer or to upsell an existing customer, add a feature. And when you really focus on turning over rocks and training your team to turn over rocks, you will be amazed at the opportunities that will find you and that you will find. Again, as I look back at this kind of example of what happened, it really made me understand the importance of this, and I felt like I had to kind of bring this back to light. It's not something we've talked about on the show, but something I think is very important in what we're trying to do here. So how do you turn over rocks? What does that process look like? Really it's about asking questions. And so if you're in frontline sales, obviously opportunities is what you do, right? You are prospecting new customers, but so many times I listen to even my own sales team, but I listen to just salespeople in general, and when they make a call, whether it be an email, whether it be a phone, and the person says no, they fight through the objections, they do a good job of that, but let's just say it ultimately ends up at a no. what I'm always surprised about is that is where the selling stops. However, this is a great opportunity for you to turn over a rock, right? That rock had nothing underneath it. You turned over the rock, you tried to sign the company, it wasn't interested, but that does not mean that there's not other people also interested in what you have. And really there's two ways you can go about this. The first is you say, listen, I understand that the product or service may not be for you. However, do you see value in the service or product, for other types of businesses? So you lead with that question. Oftentimes the answer is, well, sure, it's not for me because of blah, 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 which may give you another chance to answer that objection, but that's not the point. What they might say is, yeah, it's a great product, it's not for our business. Great. Would you happen to know other businesses that you think might benefit from a product like this? And would you be willing to make an introduction for me? People genuinely like to help people, and if they stayed on with you this long, they're probably interested in potentially helping you find customers that would be a good fit. If you're in if you're in support, you take a customer service call. At the end of that customer service call, what they should be asking is, did I answer all your questions, and are you satisfied with my support? And assuming the answer is yes, and you say, great, I meant to ask you, did you know about our blah? And you tell them about your product, your service, whatever it is you're upselling. And after that, you say, hey, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but we grow by word of mouth, and we don't do a ton of advertising. But obviously, we've been a benefit to you. Do you know other businesses that might be a benefit to us that you might be able to make an introduction to? And again, if they're happy with your service, people genuinely like to help other people, and they feel good, especially if they like the service and it's helped them, being able to help their friends or their peers with the same solution. So again, the concept today, and we can dive into every department, but we'll do that at another point in time. But the point today is really about turning over rocks, creating opportunities, not sitting back on just the thing you're after, but really trying to turn the thing you're after, whether it be a failed sale or a successful service call or anything else, and turning that into an opportunity to grow and scale your business. And again, one of the things I've adopted in almost every company that I've owned or been a part of is everyone sells. I don't care what your role is. I don't care if you're the front desk person answering the phone. I don't care if you're in accounting. I don't care if you're in HR. Everyone sells. And you just need to quantify that so that everybody, or qualify that so everybody in those departments knows what that means for them. Everyone sells. So turn over rocks, find opportunities, don't be afraid to ask for referrals, and you will scale your business. Have a great day. I'm Ron Dichter. Thanks for tuning in, and please don't forget to share this. See ya.